Imagine you're talking to someone, and halfway through your sentence, they glance at their phone. You pause for a second. They nod quickly. Yeah, I get it. But you can feel it. They don't. So you stop talking. You shorten your story. And a few seconds later, the conversation dies. Now here's the strange part. Part. From the outside, nothing bad happened. They didn't interrupt you. They didn't say anything rude. But somehow, you still felt ignored. And maybe you've been on the other side too, sitting there, nodding, waiting, thinking about what you're going to say next, not realizing the other person already feels unheard. This is the silent mistake most people make. They think listening means staying quiet. But that's not listening. That's just waiting, and this is where everything starts to change. Because real connection doesn't come from talking better. It comes from making people feel understood. And most people never learn how to do that. There's a reason for this. In almost every conversation, people are doing something invisible. They're not listening. They're reloading. You say a few words, and instantly, their brain jumps in. Oh, I had something similar happen. I should tell that story. What should I say next? So while you're still talking, they're already gone, mentally preparing their response. And the result? Two people talking. Nobody feeling heard. Have you ever had a conversation where you walked away thinking, why did I even say all that? That's what happens when listening is missing. And here's the deeper problem. Being understood is not just a nice thing. It's a psychological need. When people don't feel heard, they feel invisible, disconnected, alone, even when they're not alone. But when someone truly listens, something shifts. They relax. They open up. They start saying things they didn't plan to say. And this is where things get interesting. Because decades ago, a psychologist discovered something surprising. Instead of fixing people's problems, he just listened. But not in a passive way, in a very specific way. And the result? People started solving their own problems faster. They became more confident, more clear, more emotionally stable, without being told what to do. That's the power of real listening. It doesn't just help conversations. It changes how people feel around you. So the question is, what are you doing differently? Here's the first shift, and it's deceptively simple. You stop trying to respond and start trying to understand. Let's say you're sitting with a friend at a cafe. They lean forward and say, I've been working non-stop, but my boss barely even notices. It's like I don't exist. Now most people react instantly. You should talk to your boss, or that happened to me too. And suddenly, the conversation is no longer about them. It's about you. But instead, you pause. You take in what they said, and you respond like this. So you're putting in all this effort, and it feels like nobody sees it. That's it. No advice. No story. Just a reflection. And something subtle happens. Your friend leans back slightly. Their shoulders drop. And they say, "Yeah, exactly." Then they keep talking. They go deeper. Because now, they feel safe. This is called paraphrasing, and it does two powerful things at once. First, it checks if you actually understood them. No guessing. No assumptions. Second, it shows them you're paying attention. Not just hearing words, but actually processing meaning. And here's the part most people miss. You don't have to get it perfect. Sometimes you'll be slightly off, and they'll say, "Not exactly." It's more like, "Nah." And that's even better. Because now you're getting closer to what they really feel. But there's a mistake people make here. They try to sound too perfect. Too polished. Like a therapist reading from a script. And it feels fake. So keep it simple. Natural. Like how you'd actually talk. Because the goal is not to impress them. It's to understand them. Now here's where things usually break down. Even if you understand perfectly, if you don't show it, it doesn't matter. Imagine this. You're telling someone something important, and they just sit there. No reaction. No expression. Just staring. How long would you keep talking? Probably not long, because silence without feedback feels like rejection. And this is where the second shift comes in. But most people underestimate it. Because it looks too small to matter. But it changes everything. Now imagine this. You're still sitting in that cafe. Your friend just told you how invisible they feel at work. You paraphrased what they said. They nodded. They kept talking, but then something shifts. They go quiet for a second. They look down at their coffee and say softly, "I don't know. Maybe I'm just not good enough." This is the moment most people miss because it's uncomfortable. There's a pause. A heavy one. And your instinct might be to fix it. No, you're great. Don't think like that. But if you rush in right here, you break something. Because they weren't asking for reassurance. They were revealing a feeling. And this is where the hidden skill becomes powerful. You don't fix the feeling. You name it. You look at them and say, "That sounds really discouraging." Or, "It seems like you're starting to doubt yourself." And suddenly, they look up. Not because you solved their problem, but because you saw it. This is called labeling emotions. And it's the moment where trust is built. Not when you give advice. Not when you say something smart, but when you show someone, you understand how they feel. And here's why this works so deeply. Most people are used to being heard on the surface. People respond to their words, their stories, their situations. But almost nobody responds to their emotions. So when you do, it hits differently. It feels personal. It feels real. And this is where everything changes. Because when people feel emotionally understood, they open doors they normally keep closed. They start saying things like, actually, there's more. And now you're no longer having a casual conversation. You're having a real one. But here's something important. You don't jump into labeling emotions immediately. You let them talk first. You build context. You listen. Then when you say it, it lands. Because it's grounded in what they shared. And yes, sometimes you'll get it wrong. You might say, "That sounds frustrating," and they respond, "Not really. It's more like, I'm just tired of it." That's not failure. That's progress. Because now they're clarifying their own emotions. You're helping them understand themselves better. And that builds even more trust. But there's one more layer to this, and it's subtle. After they finish talking, don't rush. Let there be a pause. A real pause. Imagine this. They finish their sentence. You could speak immediately. But instead, you wait. 1 second, 2 seconds. And in that silence, they often continue. They add something deeper. Something more honest. Because the pause tells them, I'm not rushing you. I'm still here. I'm thinking about what you said. Have you ever noticed the best conversations don't feel fast? They feel spacious. There's room to breathe, room to think, room to feel. That space is where trust grows. But most people never create it because they're afraid of silence. So they fill it. And in doing that, they shut the door on something deeper. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever talked to someone and somehow ended up telling them things you didn't plan to say? Things that surprised even you? That's not random. That's what happens when you feel safe. And safety in conversation is created, not assumed. It's built through small signals. Reflecting what they say. Showing you're engaged. Naming what they feel and giving them space. None of these are dramatic. None of these are flashy. But together, they create something rare. A feeling of being understood. And in today's world, that's incredibly uncommon, which is exactly why this skill stands out. You don't need to be the funniest person, or the most confident, or the best storyteller. If you can make someone feel heard, they will remember you. They will trust you. They will come back to talk to you again. But here's the part most people don't expect. This only works if you actually care. Because people can feel the difference. You can use all the techniques, say all the right words. But if you're just waiting for your turn, they'll sense it. Maybe not consciously, but they'll feel it. and they'll hold back. So the real question is not, am I doing this correctly? It's, am I genuinely curious about this person? Because when you are, everything becomes easier. You naturally want to understand. You naturally pay attention. You naturally respond with empathy. And the techniques stop feeling like techniques. They become part of how you connect. Try this next time you talk to someone. Don't aim to impress them. Don't try to say something smart. Just focus on this. Veni. Understand them better than anyone else. Understand them better than anyone else does. Watch what happens. Notice how long they talk. Notice how much they share. Notice how their body language changes. And most importantly, notice how they look at you differently. Because in a world where everyone is trying to be interesting, the rarest thing you can be is interested. Let's simplify everything into 3 principles you can remember. First, reflect what people say so they know you're truly listening. Second, show that you're present through small signals and real attention. Third, name what they feel so they feel understood, not just heard. That's it, simple, but powerful. And if you practice this consistently, you won't just have better conversations. You'll build deeper connections, stronger relationships, and a kind of trust, montamidate, that most people never experience. So next time you're in a conversation, try just one of these and see what changes. And if you've ever experienced a moment where someone truly understood you, or if you try this and notice a difference, share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. And if this helped you see conversations in a new way, hit like and subscribe for more insights on how the mind really works. Because sometimes, the smallest shift changes everything.